turbo, big turbo, twin turbo, bi-turbo? They mean power, speed, and To understand turbos, you have to know the basics of how an engine works. Think of an engine like a very large pump. It sucks air and fuel into a cylinder, compresses and combusts it before pumping out all the goodies that people like to get angry about. To get more power from an engine, we need to burn more fuel more quickly. Getting fuel is usually as simple as turning the tap up, but unless there's also more air, that extra fuel is useless. A cylinder is limited in how much air it can breathe by its size, or displacement. Historically, when engine makers wanted more air to mix with their fuel, they needed a bigger cylinder. There was no replacement for displacement. This made engines larger, heavier, and oftentimes slower to rev. And then, in 1905, a Swiss engineer A turbo restored air pressure in the engine back to sea level pressure. This is called turbo normalizing. When a turbo is used to exceed that pressure, that's called turbo charging. So how does all this crap work? This is a turbo. As your engine expels exhaust gases, they enter in here. The exhaust air gets piped over this turbine and spins it like a pinwheel. Now we're done with the exhaust and it gets shot out the back of your car. The turbine is connected to this impeller on the other side of the turbo, and it spins too. Air, you push the molecules closer together and create friction when they all rub up against each other. All these hot, energized molecules, they move around everywhere, and then they increase the speed of the air, and that makes them lose density. The whole point of forced induction is to get denser air, right? Well, if we cool all of this hot, turbocharged air off, the molecules will cool down, sit closer together, and become even more dense. There are a few ways to do this. The most popular and simple way is with an intercooler. Can you hear me? An intercooler sits between the turbo and the engine. The air passes through channels with cooling fins. simplest method of applying two turbos to an engine: parallel turbocharging. As long as there's enough space in the engine bay, using two turbos is actually easier than one when an engine has two banks of cylinders, such as a V-shaped engine. Each bank can have its own turbo, rather than routing all of the cylinders into a single one. Achieving the proper power balance between the two banks proved to be a challenge. In early twin-turbo cars like the Nissan 3, to control the flow of exhaust to the correct turbo at the right rev range, a series of bypass valves opens and closes at just the right moment, ensuring the proper turbo is getting spooled at the proper time. Both the Mark IV Supra and FD-RX-7 use sequential twin turbo systems. Those cars ruled the 90s. Just like me, dude. Turbocharging is the perfect example of performance technology trickling down to the rest of the market. The 80s and 90s paved the way for modern turbocharging, and now almost anything can come with a turbo. And that means sometimes normal drivers can have a little fun when they want to. Do you like video